Shabbat Shalom. So over the past few weeks, I've been talking with you all about my process of cleaning out the Rabbi's study. I'm happy to report now it's done. We've repainted. I've been able to move in my books, which is very exciting. The feedback that I'm receiving most frequently now is we need some art on the walls. So it's still a work in progress, but the cleaning out is definitely accomplished. Now there's another work in progress that I don't think I've mentioned to all of you yet, which is the Rabbi's email. Wow, there's a lot going on in there. I had to get used to, again, using the Outlook email system. They have this thing with a focused inbox and the other inbox, and it was like all these lists that I never signed up for, so it was two random piles of, in one 24-hour period this week, this was actually kind of a slow day, I received 16 emails from lists that I've never personally signed up for. It's actually really interesting. There's a wide variety of content. Local Los Angeles organizations, both Jewish and not Jewish, all types of Jewish organizations from all over the world. And I don't really want to unsubscribe because some of them have been useful. So, it's been very interesting. And one particular email this week came in from something called the Meaningful Life Center. And I'm like, okay, this could be anything. But the subject line was a strategy to deal with toxic people. And I was like, okay, hesitantly click on that one. And so in the body of the email, it elaborates further, and it says, we were all born as pure beings, but life experiences can produce a lot of negativity in a person. While nobody's soul is toxic, their behavior and attitude might be. So on the one hand, I was relieved that they walked it back a little bit from the subject line of calling people toxic. But on the other hand, I felt a little bit offended on behalf of humankind. It felt almost like slander. It isn't right, I thought and I felt, to suggest that any human being, any holy human creation, is actually inherently toxic. That same day, I noticed an ad in the New York Review of Books, a publication that in our home is often found on our dining table. And this ad was promoting a book called Protecting Yourself from Emotional Predators. Neutralize the users, abusers, and manipulators hidden among us. Whoa, I thought. Clearly, there is a market for seeing our fellow humans as dangerous, as the enemy. Now, in contrast, later that day, I was driving through Pico Robertson, and I saw a graphic logo on a bus stop bench. The logo was in Hebrew calligraphy. You've probably seen this logo yourself, either on a bus stop bench in Pico Robertson, or maybe on a bumper sticker somewhere in our neighborhood or in the valley. It reads, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow as yourself. This quote is from the book of Vayikra, our book of Leviticus, and in contrast to the ads I previously mentioned, it suggests that we should treat others not with suspicion, but with warmth, with embrace. This contrast between seeing our fellow as a dangerous enemy and seeing our fellow as someone like us, someone we should love, struck me particularly this week, and for two different reasons. Now first, this is old news, but it's still true. Our culture and politics are extraordinarily polarized. This is true in both our homelands, Israel, and in the United States of America, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. It seems to be getting worse. This is painful, at least it is for me, and it doesn't seem like it will change anytime soon. Now, the second reason this contrast struck me particularly this week is that we're getting closer to the high holidays. Just a few moments ago, we blessed the upcoming month of Elul, and about a month ago, I was standing here and saying to all of us that we still have a lot of summer left. But now it's officially true that it's time to wrap up summer and get ready for fall. We're taking our last vacations, we're looking ahead to the coming school year, and of course, we are beginning to prepare ourselves spiritually for our high holidays. Each year, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur call us to do an inventory of our lives. We examine our assets and our liabilities, and we see where we want and need to adjust our life course in the year ahead. Eventually, we begin thinking about the topic of teshuvah, of the personal transformation that comes when we stop doing things we shouldn't be doing, and we embark upon a new way of living. Once we've begun thinking about teshuvah, we are just a hop, skip, and a jump away from one of the biggest questions of our high holiday season. Can people really change? This question can be very personal, and the ways we answer this question can reflect some of the most powerful experiences of our lives. But in regards to this question, the Torah's answer is clear. Yes, people can change. In the Talmud Masechet Brachot, Rabbi Abahu teaches the elevated status of a person who has made real change within themselves is a status that even a complete tzaddik, a righteous person since birth, cannot reach. The proof of this comes from the prophet Isaiah, who says, "Shalom, shalom," to those who are far away and to those who are nearby. Rabbi Abahu explains that shalom comes first to those who have been far away from righteousness, and only afterwards to those who have always been righteous. We actually read that very same selection from the prophet Isaiah on the morning of Yom Kippur as our Haftarah, driving the message home for us that the very people who have behaved in a toxic way have a special opportunity to achieve peace, to achieve wholeness, when they change their ways. When that happens, these people aren't just accepted, they are specially honored. So we have this instruction, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your fellow as yourself. This instruction lends itself to billboards and bumper stickers. It is not complicated. So why do we have such a hard time doing this? I think that the challenge starts when we ask, who exactly is my fellow? In studying the meaning of the Hebrew word for fellow, rea, I found two slightly different definitions. The first from the Even Shoshan Concordance, chaver or yadid, a dear one, someone who is close to us. And the second from the Morphix Hebrew English Dictionary app, a friend, a comrade, a buddy, a colleague, a neighbor, or simply another, meaning another person. So who exactly meets these definitions of rea? Certainly someone from our own family, certainly someone from our own community. But what about a neighbor on our block or in our building? Would we consider them a chaver, a yadid? What about someone who doesn't share our political beliefs? What about someone who doesn't share our religious practice? Maybe a person like this isn't our dear one or our buddy, but they are another human. They are human just like us. It's one thing to struggle with the idea that people are capable of change. But it's another thing altogether to struggle with the idea that our fellow humans are our friends and not our enemies. Rabbi David Cooper, in his book, God is a Verb, offers a mystical practice of soul awareness. He explains that after we attune ourselves to our own soul, the next step in this practice is to gently acknowledge every person we encounter has a pure soul. Every time we see anyone, we say quietly to ourselves, there's a pure soul. There's another pure soul. Notice the person could be sweet and amenable, or could have an abrasive personality. It doesn't matter. The soul of every being is pure. Immediately after these words in Rabbi Cooper's book, there's a citation taking us to an endnote at the very back of the book. Rabbi Cooper has anticipated our objections. He writes, our natural inclination is to ask about extremely evil personalities, the Hitlers of history, or modern mass murderers. How could they have pure souls? These are profound questions of good and evil. At the core, we must ask ourselves, could Hitler have existed separate from the source of creation? Questions such as this, he continues, transcend rationality and can be dealt with only mystically, through faith. But most people, Rabbi Cooper says, are not Hitler. And we must not let our fear of the Hitlers of the world keep us alienated and paranoid. Indeed, the battle of good and evil is won or lost by our decision to embrace good despite the presence of evil, which by its nature tries to keep us separate from divine awareness. In other words, if we're surrounding ourselves with ideas that there are emotional predators and toxic people lurking in our midst, it's going to be harder for us to love our fellow. And it's going to make it harder for us to believe that people, including ourselves, can change. Our Parsha this week, Re'eh, opens with a declaration. I have set before you blessing and curse. Blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, and curse if you turn away from this path. This decision is ours to make. And making the right decision, to love our fellow as ourselves, is something that takes work. In our world today, it can be a challenge to remember that most people are not on the extremes of evil. Seeing the pure soul in our fellow human takes faith. Now, to be clear, there certainly is such a thing as abuse and manipulation in relationships. There are such things as destructive attitudes and destructive behaviors. But we must not forget that most people who behave badly are not extremely evil. They have pure souls. Our Torah teaches us that such people can choose to change, can turn away from curse, and embrace blessing. And when this happens, the people who have changed achieve a special kind of peace, a special kind of wholeness. Parashat Re'eh teaches us that this week, this time of the year, is our time to choose between curse and blessing. Our world is full of influences that lead us to choose the curse of being blind to the holiness in one another. But we can choose to embrace good despite the presence of evil. This year, we can love our fellows as ourselves. We can choose blessing. Shabbat Shalom.